growing up in Saskatchewan's a little different because it's cool to look back on the memories, but I think it's probably even cooler that, there's so much windshield time with your parents and so much windshield time with coaches and all those things that you build some pretty good relationships through the game.
Welcome to episode 316 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. It's been a busy week for baseball in our province, so let's get right to it with the news headlines. And we'll start with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame's class of 2025, which will be introduced sometime next week. The organization was originally set to make the announcement on Thursday, but due to a scheduling conflict, they've decided to postpone it. Keep it locked on our social media channels as we'll pass along any information we can onto you as quickly as we can, and we will, of course, break down the Alberta and Saskatchewan connections once the class is revealed. The Canadian Baseball Network has unveiled its annual list of top 100 most influential Canadians in baseball. Bob Elliott and Kevin Glood do a phenomenal job of breaking it down every year. Congratulations to everyone named to the list, including Okotoks Dogs founding director John Urcandia at number 13, former Vulcan and Granham ball player Pat Gillick at 15, friend of the show Ashley Stevenson at 31, recent guest Stubby Clapp at 37, and Calgary's Michael Soroka at number 60, among many others. We'll have a full breakdown of those connections in a story once Bob and Kevin are done adding new names and honorable mentions. For all the details on the top 100 most influential Canadians in baseball, head to CanadianBaseballNetwork.com. We are just a week away from the start of Major League Baseball's spring training, and a big congratulations going out to Dogs Academy and Okotoks Dogs alum Tristan Peters, as he's been invited to the Tampa Bay Rays big league camp. He spent last year in AAA with the Durham Bulls and was a guest back on episode 308 of the show, as we had a great catch-up. On the college scene, plenty of action already underway as teams are slowly getting back into the swing of things. Calgary's Kellen Bourne performed well for the UBC Thunderbirds on a trip through Florida. He threw 2 innings of relief, allowing a run on 3 hits, walking 2 and striking out 1, while picking up 4 hits and 5 RBI. Meantime, what a season debut for Dogs Academy alum Jimmy Dion. He had 3 homers and 5 RBI in a 13-11 Howard College win over Eastern Oklahoma State. On the Saskatchewan side of things, Saskatoon's Peyton McCarg was up to his old tricks with 7 hits, 4 RBI, a stolen base in 4 games, including his first home run of the season for Washburn University. And Warman's Tyler Van Neste was outstanding with Cal State San Bernardino, going 7 for 12 with 3 walks, 9 RBI, a home run, and a stolen base in just 3 games. And a congratulations to St. Albert native and Dogs Academy alum Max Hartman, as he's been named to the preseason All-Mountain West Conference team. He also celebrated a birthday earlier this week. On the commitment front, Prairie Baseball Academy's Justin Scott and Jake Maniago are heading to the University of Pikeville. Elsewhere, Lethbridge Longhorns outfielder Midnight Toker, utility man Ty Mabin, and infielder Dylan Carpenter are all heading to Dawson Community College, and Dogs Academy infielder Jack Lucier is heading to Lynn Benton Community College. Prep Baseball is getting ready for several Scout Days over the next few weeks. They are being hosted by Central Alberta Sox February 12th, Dogs Academy on the 13th, ATHX on the 14th, St. Joe's Academy on March 14th, and the big Alberta New Year Invite event is going February 15th at the Dome in Red Deer. Let's stick with the high school game for a minute and get a couple of conversations in that we've had in recent weeks with new commits. We'll start with Dogs Academy hurler and Okotoks native Kingston Besuijen. He had an unforgettable 2024 with the Dogs, then represented Alberta at the Baseball Canada Cup in Fort McMurray, and he finished things off by committing to the College of San Mateo in California. The 6'2", 203-pound right-hander was the focus of a recent 1 through 9, and here is that full conversation with Kingston Besuijen. Kingston, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the latest piece of news from you, and it's about your commitment to the College of San Mateo. How excited were you to make that announcement?
I was super excited. Just the opportunity to go down to California and play baseball is just extreme.
What was it about that school that stood out in your mind?
The coach that I talked to, Coach Williams, one of the best guys I've ever talked to, has super high aspirations. Told me he'll help me reach my goals, everything. And this campus is one of the best I've ever seen.
Very cool. You mentioned the expectations in that school. I mean, they've got a few conference championships to their name. How driven are you to get them back to there? Because I think the last time they won it all was like 2019 or something like that.
Yeah, it was 2019. I'm super excited to have like a school where they obviously love winning, and then well, if I can go and get another like state conference like win, that's super exciting.
Mhm. On the academic side of things, what are you planning on taking down there?
I want to do kinesiology and business.
That's an interesting pairing right there.
Yeah.
What's the mindset with those two?
Business has always just been in my family, and then kinesiology I want to do to just if I'm not playing, at least I can just still stay in the sport.
Very cool. You're coming off a year where you also got to wear Alberta's colors at the Canada Cup up in Fort McMurray. What was that experience like for you?
That was a super cool experience. I played for like other Team Alberta teams, like national, but that was definitely a special one. I like great group of guys and just a lot of fun.
I've talked to a few of the guys who were on that team, and they said playing under the lights in Fort Mac, your home province, the crowd's going crazy. What was it like from your perspective to see that kind of atmosphere?
It was crazy. Like even like I did a lot of pitching, and like that was probably like the most like hyped up and fun I've ever had pitching.
Very cool. Speaking of your performance, how did it go from your standpoint?
I thought I did pretty good. I can't remember exactly, but how many innings I went, but I'm pretty sure I came up with a 0 ERA, so that's kind of cool.
Absolutely. Looking back on it, and you said you've done it a few times now. What does it mean to you to rep Alberta in that way?
I love it. I like to show what our province has to offer and just play with the best in our province.
On that note, I've talked to the Baseball Alberta folks, and they said obviously they did the whole rebrand, the Bighorns thing. When you walked in and saw the new swag and that, what went through your mind?
I thought it was cool because we were used to like the like A that everyone's always seen, but it was really nice to switch it up and be the first team to like represent that was really cool.
Absolutely. So let's get back into your baseball past here a little bit, Kingston. You're the product of Okotoks. A few of you around there happen to be a dog's product. We'll get into that in a second. But how did you get into baseball in the first place?
It wasn't ever really big in my family, but my great grandpa played, and I didn't even know that until I was like 7. But I just always like never really liked hockey, never played it. Played soccer for a bit, wasn't my thing, and then played baseball, and I just loved it.
What was it about the game that you really loved?
I love the team atmosphere. How like it's not like go 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 all the time, where you can like you have like it's more like strategy. You got to be mental. It's not just like whoever can like run the fastest, hit the hardest.
Mm. When you look back on it, was there that moment where it kind of clicked for you, where it went from, okay, this is a fun game and I really like it, to, okay, maybe there's something to this and maybe I can chase the dream, so to speak?
Yeah, I think I found that like early, like probably Bantam first year, second year, like going into second year, I like really like, I can like actually go down and to the U.S. and go to school for this.
Looking back on the young career to this point, do you have a favorite memory or moment on the field that really stands out where you kind of had to take that step back and go, man, I can't believe I get to do this?
It was my first year going to a national tournament. It was my Bantam second year, and we were playing Manitoba, and I was the last batter of the game to go, and I walked off the game with a line drive to left field. That was the coolest moment ever.
That's not a bad one at all. On the flip side, we all know baseball's a game of failures. So I got to ask this. What's been the biggest challenge or the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome over your young career?
Um, I don't know, just adapting to like the different pitchers I've seen, like just going through like hard moments, like hitting and stuff. That's always been the hardest part.
Hmm. As mentioned, you're a Dogs Academy guy. What's that program meant to you in your development, not just as a ball player, but also as a human being?
It's big. We don't only focus on baseball. We also like grow as young men, and just like they set us up for our future, not just in baseball but outside of.
Hmm. on the baseball side of things, where do you see your potential? Like, what do you give us the scouting report on Kingston and what you bring to the table heading down south or heading to Dogs Academy and doing your thing this spring, and then obviously heading down south next fall?
Yeah, you usually good hitter, not anymore. Went PO, pretty good pitcher. Got fastball, slider, changeup, fastballs like 87. Good changeup, good slider.
What do you want to work on to make sure that when you head down to San Mateo that you are above everybody else and you're ready to take that next step?
I want like complete command of my pitches. Like right now, it's pretty good, but I want like absolute command of my pitches.
How much of a motivator is it when you have a guy like Matt Wilkinson in the dugout with you, kind of thing, or training with you guys? You got Graham Brunner. These guys weren't necessarily overpowering guys, but man, did they have control of everything. Is that something that you think about when you're talking about wanting to have absolute control of your pitches?
Yeah, absolutely. Like even they'll show up to some of our practices like throughout the winter. They'll be there with us at 6 a.m. working with us, like teaching us what works for them and what could work for us.
Mhm. Who's been the biggest influence on your game in with the Dogs program?
Probably like favorite coach I've ever had, probably Lou Pote. He's just been there forever, and I just always like had a connection with him.
How cool is it to rub shoulders and talk old school stuff with him, a guy who made it to the big leagues and beyond?
It's really cool. Like he keeps it real. Like he'll tell me like what I need to work on, what's going well, what's not, and he just always like keeps it like real with me.
Fantastic stuff. A few fun ones for you here, Kingston. First off, whose poster was up on your wall as a kid?
Man, I didn't even really have one. It always switched. My first one, I don't know why, it was Paul Goldschmidt. Loved him, and then went to Aaron Judge, and probably right now it's Vladdy.
Some pretty good ones right there. If you're coming out as the bullpen guy and you get that walk up tune like Mariano Rivera and Enter Sandman or Edwin Diaz and Timmy Trumpet, what's your go-to walkout song?
Might go a little bit basic. Hell's Bells is always pretty good.
I'll never say no to some AC/DC, that's for sure. And finally, what's your favorite ballpark food when you're there as a fan?
It's got to be the poutine or chicken strips.
See, I like a little bit of difference. It depends on the day, right? Like it could be hot dog one day and then poutine the next, right? So, what's your go-to topping on your poutine?
Not really, but it's always, if I get a poutine, always a Sprite.
Okay. All right. I like it. A couple more for you before we let you go here. For those young kids who are starting out on their baseball journeys and they're wanting to get to where you're at now, what's that one piece of advice or those words of wisdom that you'd like to impart upon them?
You just got to stick to it and stay to the grind, and like what works good for you, do that. Don't change it because somebody else is doing something different.
Very savvy words of advice from Kingston. Final one for you. It's one we ask everybody here on the show. What's the game of baseball mean to you?
It's massive. It's more than a sport. I think it's kind of like a lifestyle. I wake up, go to it. I go to school. After school, back at baseball. Just love it.
We've loved having you on the show here, Kingston. Really appreciate the time. Congrats on the commitment. Congrats on all the success over your young career to this point. Continued success with the Dogs and with San Mateo and so much more. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you so much.
Next up is Red Deer minor baseball product and St. Joseph Academy trainee Tanner Morrow. The 6'4", 195-pound infielder has been turning heads for a while now, winning provincial and national championships with the Carstar Braves, then repping Canada at the Prep Baseball West Coast Games to wrap up the season. He put the pen to paper with the University of Pikeville not that long ago, so here's our catch-up with Tanner Morrow.
Tanner, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
Let's start with the latest piece of news out of your camp in recent weeks, your commitment to the University of Pikeville. How excited are you to finally get that under your wing and get things rolling at the University of Pikeville?
I'm very excited. It's just an amazing opportunity, and the more I kind of go along with my gap year, the more I'm eager to take the next step.
What was it about that school that really stood out to you that made you go, yeah, I got to go there?
To be honest, it's probably the coaching philosophies and like their beliefs. I had a couple chats with them, and every time I talked to them, I wanted to go there more, and it didn't take much convincing. They just everything I looked for in a school, they have in Pikeville.
Have you been down there yet?
I haven't, no.
Have you heard much in the way of what the atmosphere's like and the program like, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit. I've talked to a few guys that have friends who go there and stuff like that. I'm looking to go into med school, so their pre-med program's very high up. It's very high ranked, so that was appealing to me. And then they're in a small town, kind of a small town vibe and stuff like that. So I thought it was very interesting. Don't know if I'd ever go to Kentucky for any other reason, so I thought that's a pretty good opportunity to see a different part of the world.
Absolutely. You spoke about med school. What exactly are you looking to focus in on when you head down there?
So I'm taking biohealth science when I go down there, and then we're kind of just gonna go from there. And then for the baseball side of it, I don't know, it's just gonna be a good opportunity, new faces, new places kind of thing, and we're gonna mix it up.
Do you have a goal in mind on the career side should the baseball thing not pan out? Is there a rhyme to reason when it comes to the biohealth side?
So I've been looking into radiology. Always liked biochemistry, everything like that. So I'm a science guy, and I would like to pursue radiology. And then, of course, the baseball side, I want to take it as far as I can, but to be realistic, I always want to have a backup plan.
It's never a bad thing, but you're shooting for the stars, man. I mean, I'm a broadcaster, so I mean, kudos to the science people out there, because way over my pay grade. I mean, you're coming off a pretty cool year. You got to be a part of some pretty big events, but the biggest one I have to assume was the year that you had with Red Deer Braves. You go on that crazy run on that final Sunday to win provincials, then you run the table in the nationals. What was that run like from your standpoint?
It was the coolest thing ever, to be honest. Looking back on it, it's kind of unbelievable. 3 do-or-die games in the same day in provincials, and then traveling all the way to St. John's and kind of going in there confident but not really sure what to expect. It was pretty cool to have the outcome that we did.
Looking back on it, hindsight's obviously a nice factor to have here, but was there something that really clicked for your team? Because I've talked to different guys who said the last couple of years of that team felt like they were better, but they fell short. And this year, maybe not as talented out of the gate, but things seemed to kind of come together. What was it that really clicked for you guys?
I think it was just the bond we had. Every guy wanted the same thing. We all had the belief that we could do it. Whether we proved it or not early on in the season, we grew together. We tried to get the best results we could, and then it all fell into place for us. It was just the belief that we could do it was what drove it, I think.
How happy were you on a personal level with your performance? I mean, you had a big game in that final against BC, but throughout, you seem to be a pretty big factor. What was clicking for you?
Well, Nationals, I didn't have a good day until the Sunday, so I was pretty grateful to leave on a decent note. But throughout the year, I just staying confident. It's a game of failure, so you kind of have to look at the positives. Pitcher makes a good pitch. Just good for them. They're trying to do that, and I'm trying to hit it. So stuff like that's always going to happen. You just have to look at the bright side and start fresh every at bat.
Final out happens. Take us into the dog pile for a second. Who are you hugging first?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. Noah Nakanishi is what comes to mind. Him and I have been close buds for a while. We won U15 together. We've played together since U11. I remember after provincials especially, that's the guy I went to first for sure.
After that kind of chaos ensues, did you manage to take that moment to take that step back, maybe look around and go, man, we did it?
I mean, yeah, I don't even really remember it, to be honest, but I do remember, I guess, a couple minutes later when you're kind of settling in, and you get to actually believe that what you're doing is happening. It's it's a really cool thing for sure.
I bet. You also played at Prep Baseball's West Coast games. You had some other big events under your belt. When you look back on the year, the Nationals, Provincials, the whole gambit, what is it like being in your shoes? Like, how fun of a year was that for you?
Oh, it was awesome. Just kind of the grind of the winter, it like makes up for it in the summertime. You look forward to it all year, and that's kind of what keeps you pushing. We're getting into the dog days of winter here, and just how much fun you had last year is what drives you to do it again. So, this year was amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
For sure. So you speak of the winter and the off season that is upon us right now. What are you doing? What are you working on? What are you hoping to work on in the next few weeks here as you get ready for the coming spring, the coming summer, and then obviously that eventual run to Pikeville?
Physicality is a big one. Jumping into a 4-year school, I definitely think playing with some older guys, I don't want to say intimidating, but it's a different step. Some more physical bodies that I've never really played against, stuff like that. And with that comes kind of the mental side of it. Mentally getting prepared to play this summer, play in the fall, kind of get myself ready to face the adversity that, of course, I'm going to face going into my first year of college baseball. So, physicality and then the mentality side of it is very important as well.
Mm. Let's get back into your baseball past here a little bit. You're the product of Red Deer. How'd you get into the game in the first place?
Probably my dad, to be honest. He played growing up, so it was baseball and hockey from the start for me, and then in U15 I decided it was baseball only. That's all I wanted to do. So
very cool. Was that a bit of a challenge for you to make that decision? Because we all know hockey's kind of the king of sport in Canada. Baseball might be third or fourth on the list. So did you turn a few heads when you made that choice?
I don't know if you can imagine, but telling my teammates and hockey coaches that I'm quitting for an American sport seems a little bit odd for sure. But yeah, definitely even a couple of years after it, you're still looking back like, what if I played hockey kind of thing. It's an awesome sport. Unfortunately, you do have to pick one, but I'm glad I made the decision I did. It's just, it was a bit of a tough decision to make for sure.
What was it about baseball that really stood out to you that made you go, I want to chase this dream?
I don't know. To be honest, it's just it's a sport that you can bounce back from so much easier than most others, in my opinion. Like, of course, you're going to have those slumps and stuff, but I think that's the beauty of it. You can go as far down as possible, and then the next game you can restart and you're back fresh. So it's a really cool sport in that way. And then stuff like this summer, that just solidifies that I made the right choice having the year that I did.
Absolutely. I have a feeling that part of this last year might be the answer, or maybe there's something completely off the rails here, but I like asking this question is, looking back on the young career to this point, do you have a favorite moment on the field where you had to take that step back and go, I can't believe I get to do this?
Yeah, I'd love to have a great memory from way back, but just thinking about under the lights in St. John's when you walk it off to win nationals, there isn't really anything that can top that for right now. So that's the highlight of my baseball career so far, and I'm excited to think about how there will be moments like that in the future.
Absolutely. On the flip side of that, you've mentioned it before, baseball is a game of failures. So what's maybe been the biggest challenge or hurdle you've had to overcome over your career?
Probably I had ankle surgery in U15 that kind of set me back a couple months. I didn't train for baseball for close to 6 or 7 months, so I was down and out for a little bit, and the climb back out of that was very challenging. Had an okay summer coming out of that, but nothing crazy, and then it's just that's what's pushed me to grind through what I call the dog days of winter, because that's when all the gains are made, and that's when you make the progress happen.
Mm-hmm. Walk us through what happened with that injury. How did it all play out, and what was the comeback like from your perspective?
Yeah, so it happened. Actually, it happened in U15. I played half the baseball season, and then due to the pandemic, it was a delayed surgery. So my ankle had been broken for close to a year and a half then.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that year it was a bit emotional watching everyone playing the sport that you wish you were, but I wouldn't trade that either. It was awesome. That team actually won provincials that year. And that was a super cool experience to get to kind of watch and live through. And then going back to the school in the fall, kind of started training again in late October, early November, and tryouts through January. So it was go time from there. You just kind of got to push through and see what you can do. And I did what I could, and worked for results in the summer.
Absolutely. When you're going through the rehabilitation piece on an injury like that, you leaning on anybody in particular to get you through, or is there someone in your corner that you're really really thankful for?
Probably my brother, to be honest. He pushes me. He plays hockey, so he's been grinding, kind of following in my footsteps on the sports side, and we've been working together. I don't know, I look up to him as much as he looks up to me, probably. So it's cool to work out with him and see him grow in his sport. So I'd say he's probably the one I look up to most and who helped me through that, to be honest.
Very cool. Is he older or younger?
He's younger.
Okay, that's kind of a flip of the switch, eh?
Yeah.
Very cool indeed. A few fun ones for you before we let you go, Tanner. First off, what's your favorite ballpark food when you're there as a fan?
Ballpark food. I can't say no to popcorn, to be honest. That's just what came straight to my mind. Never put the bag down.
So is there a soda that you're a big fan of to wash it all down?
I'm a Diet Coke fan. That's my go-to.
So are you married to Coke, or can it be a Diet Pepsi too?
Can't be a Diet Pepsi. It has to be a Diet Coke.
It's funny how we can be creatures of habit and creatures of no, I am married to this brand or that brand.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Hilarious that way. What's your favorite baseball movie?
Oh, baseball movie. That's kind of a tough one. Probably Rookie of the Year is a good one.
Oh, going into the Wayback Machine. I like that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's probably the one I've watched the most, to be honest.
Very good one indeed. And finally, whose poster was up on your wall as a kid?
I actually still have it in my room, looking at it right now. I have one with Russell Martin, Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion, and Josh Donaldson on it.
It's like a game-changing team right there, weren't they?
Yeah, those were my guys growing up.
Blue Jays fan through and through. Love it. Two more for you before we let you go. They are the standard ones we ask a lot of the athletes here. For those young kids starting out on their baseball journeys and they're wanting to get to where you're at now, what's that one piece of advice or those words of wisdom you like to impart upon them?
Probably just to enjoy the parts of the game that aren't the game itself. Like grinding through the winter, stuff like that. You don't get to live through the good parts if you don't put in the work. So learn to enjoy putting in the work.
It's really good advice there. And the final one, what's the game of baseball mean to you?
Well, it means everything to me. It's, I don't know, it's just everything I do. Wake up, go play baseball, and that's pretty much my day. So I look forward to every day getting to go into the school, play some ball, and get better with the people around me.
We look forward to continue watching your journey unfold there, Tanner. Really appreciate the time. Congratulations on all the success you've had at this point. Congrats on the commitment and so much more. Looking forward to the journey. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And finally, he's one of the few Canadians who can call themselves head coaches in the U.S. college system. Tanner Spencer took the reins at the University of Mary back in 2019 and has had a lot of success in recent years. The Craig, Saskatchewan native has had a fascinating journey in the game, including representing Baseball Sask, suiting up at Vauxhall Academy, and playing on the junior national team. After his playing days were done, he got into coaching, including time with the Moose Jaw Miller Express and Minot State. We had an all-encompassing conversation recently, and here is Tanner Spencer.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, Joe.
Just a couple of weeks to go before the official start of the season at UMary. How excited are you to get things going?
Yeah, exciting. I think it doesn't matter. Like we open on January 31st, and it feels like it doesn't matter if it's January 31st or March 31st. It always like has a semblance of sneaking up. But no, the guys are ready, and this is a fun group, and no, we're excited about it. So yeah.
What are you looking forward to, or what are you expecting out of this year's edition of the Marauders?
Yeah, no, I think, it's always hard to say inside if we're, like hyper competitive or if we're competitive. It's a good team. It's just a matter of, like staying healthy. Our travel schedule is obviously a big one, a tough one. So staying healthy and I'd say we finally not finally, but are in a position where if guys, we don't need anybody to do anything they're not capable of doing to be, hyper successful. So yeah, I think we have a much improved pitching staff, so that makes things a lot easier. I think we're really old, but as is college baseball, period, right? So, but it should be a fun team. We've got awesome kids and guys that want to lead and understand college baseball at a high level and all the fun things. So I think there's the makings of some pretty good things.
There's a few veterans I noticed on the team. Is there a sense of maybe a little bit of unfinished business, just the way the season ended last year?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's it always, college baseball's such a wonderful thing because they spend so much time together. I always feel like we get to be like this outlier in the world where, the world is so everybody's on their phones, and not that our guys aren't on their phones, but just that they spend so much time together, right? And you build like a connection and a love, and when you can keep the roster together for a long period of time, which we feel like we have, there's a little bit of like built-in selflessness that makes the whole thing a lot more fun, right? It's a lot easier when you it's easier to give up on yourself than it is to give up on 48 guys, right? So yeah, I think unfinished business, yes. I think like love for each other, yes. So all the things.
One of the keys, according to baseball watchers, for this coming season has ties here in Alberta. Caleb Haney's been named in a few different spots here. As a guy who's seen him over the last couple of years, what does Caleb bring to the table?
Yeah, he's become it's just such a dynamic skill set. He can run, there's contact, he can hit for extra bases, he can defend, plays the game with a ton of joy. Like it's a fun guy to watch play. He plays fast, it's a good personality. So Caleb there's a lot of makings. I think like this would be the year, right, where he jumps from being a really good college baseball player to can probably jump into like that elite group of Division II players. So we're excited about Caleb, and yeah, he's exciting to be around every day. So
Who else do you have your eye on?
Jackson Zanoli's an Alberta guy, who's going to be like start the year in the rotation for us. Rest of our Canucks. I'll keep going. Hank Griffin will play in the middle infield for us. Hank went to Okotoks. He's from Quebec, but went to Okotoks. He'll be impactful for us. We have a freshman bat named Keegan Drinkle from BC, who will see significant playing time for us. So there's a lot of, as I go down the list here. Adam Golby was transfer from Indian Hills, was really big stuff. Who'll start the year in the rotation for us. And then, mixed in from kind of all around Canada and the US to where we really like the team, but it's always exciting to have a pretty good Canadian contingent that's going to be impactful and is fun to watch. So I think we got that.
Very cool. One guy you won't have in the lineup this year is also familiar to us here in the West. That's Carter Beck, who's moved on to a bigger school. What a year he had. Just take us back last year. And what did Carter bring to the table as a freshman of the year?
Yeah, Carter's it's a big time skill set. And again, like Kalen plays the game with a ton of joy. I think like, obviously there's freshman stuff, right? The highs were really, really high and the lows were really, really low. And a guy that can really, really cover fastballs. So if you get in fastball counts, Carter's really, really dangerous. So no, it was he had a big year for us, carried the offense in periods of time. And I think like really, really developed from the stuff that he learned how to run the bases a whole lot better, learned to defend a whole lot better, and yeah, a guy that can cover any fastball. So if you want to go fastball on a fastball count, Carter's a pretty dangerous hitter.
Absolutely. What would it mean to you coming into this year to put some championships up on the board?
Yeah, I think one like just important for the guys and the school. It's obviously there's a lot of work that goes into building or rebuilding a program, and then when you kind of start to feel like you're getting to some of those breaking points where I feel like we're close to breaking through. You just know how much work the guys have put in, and how it's a pretty special thing when you come into a program and leave it very differently. So, some of those upperclassmen and even the upperclassmen that have graduated who now, are freshmen get to play for a different program and to continue to elevate that standard. So it'd mean a great deal and mean a great deal to the school and the program to see it continue to elevate. But mostly, like, I think you just want to see guys' hard work pay off, and guys who have been committed. And I think it hopefully hopefully can be a combination of a lot of guys' hard work. So
Let's get into your baseball past here a little bit, Coach. You're a product of Craik, Saskatchewan. How'd you get into the game in the first place?
yeah, that's not something you hear very. This might be the only podcast or interview I've ever done that some people know where Craig, Saskatchewan is, which is good news. Yeah, I played same as everybody. Grew up on a farm ranch in Saskatchewan. Played 18 sports because there's 450 people in town, so you kind of have to, right? And probably took to baseball a little bit because I was pretty decent at it and no real baseball background. I remember making the job. I was talking to a coaching clinic a couple weeks ago, and like my dad being as dialed in on lessons as I was because he was trying to learn baseball, right? So pretty cool stuff. But yeah, I was kind of a pretty early bloomer and got to do some baseball Sask stuff and then some junior national team stuff at an early age, and kind of just kept going with it. So was really lucky. Like Saskatchewan, obviously, like you're going to spend some windshield time to do anything you want to do, but some really good people when I was young that had some belief when I don't think you knew if you were good or not, right? And so yeah, I think growing up in Saskatchewan's a little different because it's cool to look back on the memories, but I think it's probably even cooler that there's so much windshield time with your parents and so much windshield time with coaches and all those things that you build some pretty good relationships through the game.
Mhm. Looking back on it, do you remember the moment where it kind of flipped for you, where you said you were playing all these different sports? Was there a moment in time where you went, okay, maybe I can chase this baseball dream and do something with it?
Yeah, I think I played on a Canada Cup team when pretty young. I don't know if it was probably a 3 year underage, and that was like the first junior national team. Invite, and I pitched pretty well. I was actually in Kindersley, Saskatchewan. I pitched pretty well and started getting talked to by a lot more people, and I thought that was a pretty cool thing. And then you make the decision. We decided to go to Vauxhall, and that was again like just the understanding of like it becomes a little bit more. They're substantially more serious, and I'm not throwing in a barn in Craik in the winter anymore, and all those things. So. I'd say probably that, yeah, at a Canada Cup in Kindersley.
What did it mean to you looking back on it to be able to rep whether it was the green of Saskatchewan or the red and white of Canada?
Yeah, a ton. And it's funny, right? Because you look at it as with some hindsight and realize that you definitely don't or take it for granted a little bit, right? Like some pretty cool junior national team stuff at a pretty young age that I got to do, be around some really, really good coaches and some really good players. And same like the baseball Saskatchewan thing, Greg Bronze was really good to me from a really, really young age and took a lot of, time and investment in me. So baseball Sask was a big deal, and still is. I'm pretty proud to be from, a town of 450 people in Saskatchewan. So
Mhm. You mentioned Vauxhall. Talk about making that trek because it's one thing I always say when it's one thing to be like a hometown guy who's going to the hometown academy or going to the hometown area school. You decided to flip provinces. Was that a tough choice for you?
I don't think so. Like Vauxhall felt very similar to home. Like it was a small town. I think Les was really, really good to me and my family during kind of that whole process. So it felt like home. I think like the prevalence of junior hockey players doing it makes it a little bit less like I wouldn't say intimidating, but like a little bit less of a what feels like a leap from there. I think Craig, we were either driving an hour and a half to Saskatoon to find somewhere to throw in the winter, or you're driving an hour to Regina to find somewhere to throw in the winter. So I think it was kind of a natural fit. And then you look back, and I think the one thing that at that time was overlooked at academies is it would have been really really hard for me as a kid from Craik to like on ramp to college baseball without having that Vauxhall experience, like pretty near impossible, right? With routines and team dynamics and all those things that are new and you need to figure out before you do it. So yeah, Vauxhall is awesome.
Speaking of, what did that program mean to you? Not just as a ball player and as somebody who's trying to move up the chain, but also as a human being. Because everybody I talk to says that place changes you and in so many positive ways.
Yeah, Vauxhall is a special place, and I still feel that way. But really, again, like I wouldn't have been able to like on ramp to college baseball. I probably wouldn't have, thought about being a full-time coach, right? And wanting to do this for a living without, Vauxhall and Les's interaction there and Coach K, and all the people. And then I think just the same thing we talked about with college baseball, with just how close it is. Like still really close with the guys I went to Vauxhall with. And yeah, so relationships were huge. I think you learn how to be a student too, which is important. There's some really good teachers there that make the college transition a substantially easier one. And again, I think you learn that the people definitely make the place, right? It doesn't really matter about all the rest. It's nice to have, but if there's really good humans that genuinely care about you and want to see you be successful, it's going to be a good experience. So yeah, Vauxhall was awesome for me.
Looking back on the career, whether it be playing or coaching, do you have a favorite moment or a memory that stands out to you that makes you kind of go, you had to kind of take that step back almost and go, man, I can't believe I got to do this.
Yeah, I think probably just like coaching because it's more recent. I think I was the assistant coach at Minot. They had called me a few times to interview for this job here. And then my wife and I were leaving here, and they offered the position, and it's such a it's really hard to do this as a Canadian, right? To manage the green card and the visa and all those processes that go into it to finally get to take kind of a breath and know that there's some things are solidified for a couple years was a pretty big deal for my wife and I. And from a player's standpoint. Um, I don't like because it'd be so early. I was an early bloomer, and then after that, I was pretty freaking average. But as I think the first time you pitch wearing a Canada uniform is a pretty big deal. And that was a special experience. So
For sure. On the flip side, we all know baseball's a game of failures. So I like asking this question is what's that one failure, that one hurdle or obstacle that you had to overcome over your career that you're maybe most proud of?
yeah, so many. I think like I was very unable to stay healthy. So I think I got a hip, a lat, a little bit of a labrum, some thoracic outlet, and an elbow going on. So I think there was just a lot, and then the like process of rehab is definitely like a process within itself. So. I think like getting on the backside of rehab and then, straining a lat, right? Coming off a TJ rehab. So there was a lot of those in there to where I think if you don't have a pretty, definite like why and let's say care for your shareholders who've given a lot to put you into these positions, I think this thing will kind of eat you alive. So yeah, there's probably too many to talk about.
Was the transition from playing to coaching as easy as you made it out to be?
Yeah, I don't know. I think parts of it, yes, parts of it, no. I I I was really lucky. The first guy I worked for, his name's Damon Day, and he was a head coach at University of Nebraska at Kearney, and played for Coach Day, and then coached for him, and he made it really easy. Like I think like buffered a lot of those things, and gave me like probably too much autonomy too early, and all the things from there. So it ended up being like easier than I thought it would be. Now on the other side, you know, with our graduate assistants and all the things, I think like it's a challenge, but the right personality who can be communicative, and can separate some things is a guy who can handle it. So
Have you noticed a change in the way coaching is has kind of done its business, even in the short amount of time that you've been doing it for, in terms of I've been listening to a few different podcasts about how there's a lot more positive reinforcement for the athletes now versus sometimes, there's the odd, drill sergeant, for example.
right.
Did you notice that, or is that something that you just naturally went towards, or do you still think there's a happy medium? Like, what's your take on what you see as the new frontier of coaching is upon us?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think for us, like there is just, and I think it's just access, right? Like I was listening, somebody talks about, you know, people changing, and I think people's access has just changed, right? So, you know, probably using some, you know, reinforcement and some data and some things to be able to back up what we're talking about. But I still think like, people want to be held accountable. Like the right people want to be held accountable. Now that doesn't, for me, mean like, hey, we're gonna go do hill runs and get sprinted at, and you know, run it like my bantam hockey team. But for me, I think like they want to be held accountable. They want to, like, they're comfortable with hard conversations if you set the tone that that's a part of it. And I think people respond really well to you know, you just having hard conversations and being honest. And if they know that you're, you know, doing it with the interest of helping them grow, I think that it's still something that people want. But from a development standpoint, I think like putting as much data as you can in front of people and making as informed decision as possible definitely offsets, you know, that with them having a lot more knowledge on what they're doing.
I was curious about that to a certain extent too, because I think a lot of we talk a lot about the new generation of kids who aren't used to failure, right? They get scurried through school as an example. Is that something that you notice in the college ranks, is that the kids seem almost too buffered from failure, or do you think that ball players and athletes in general they know that the failure happens, so they're a little more attuned to it than maybe your average book smart student, for example?
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably half and half. I think we have, and obviously, like their home environment has a ton to do with that. And we're lucky that through the recruiting process, we get to know their home environment a little bit, right? To where you have a pretty good, you know, idea as to how that goes. I think like being really transparent on the front end is how we've been able to, you know, offset that a little bit, right? Like we want to have hard conversations. It's part of growing up. It's part of being a man. You're going to have to compete for playing time. If you don't want to do that, you probably can't play college baseball. So the things that go into it, and I think without like, you know, team-driven leadership and without upperclassmen that you know, can maybe like be a little bit of an offsetter to a hard conversation, that's really hard. But the team environment, I think, buffers from a lot of that at college baseball too. So like long story short, yes, I think it's there's definitely been like a transition um for kids, but I also think that, you know, if you set that tone early and are transparent with guys, they always appreciate that more than the opposite.
A few more for you before we let you go here, Coach. First off, when it comes to the Canadian ball scene, you mentioned the fact that it's nice to have that mix of Canadian and American content on your roster. How much of a point of pride is it for you to be able to look up north and go pick out a few guys that might be able to be contributing members of your ball team?
Yeah, it's been a really big deal to what we've done here. I think like two big factors. One being, as a private school, we don't have in-state, out-of-state international tuition, so it's the same all across the board. The second thing would be, you know, we're a high academic private, and then the third would be Bismarck is about as, you know, safe of a community as you can find, right? So but yeah, for me, I think it's just there, we have a ton of relationships up there. Our assistant coaches are awesome. But Coach Martin's from Kelowna, BC, played for the Langley Blaze, so there's a ton of relationships up there. Coach Barclay's from Sarnia, Ontario, played for GLC, so there's a ton of relationships up there. So I think the relationship component, and then the two, like from our whole coaching staff, just knowing like just that journey is a little bit more challenging, right? So there's usually like a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, and there's usually an expectation that it's not just going to be easy, right? That there's going to be some trials and tribulations in this process. So we've really loved our Canadian pipeline, and there's a level of like gratitude from the most of the Canadian kids that just doesn't come because it's just not the normal, right? So that's been great.
How has the talent pool changed in your time of coaching? Have you noticed a bit
Yeah,
of an increase in the amount of talent coming out of
night
Canada?
night and day. I'd say everywhere. Like I didn't play college baseball that long ago, and 90 mile per hour arm was a big deal. We if I look at like a top 15 arms in our program right now, I think there's two guys on that won't be somewhere between 89 and 92 plus. And so yeah, the training style I think has definitely, changed that. We talk about like guys that are going to be successful at this level usually have like, let's say, 90 mile per hour miss hits. So I think the physicality, the knowledge of training has definitely changed that whole process to where the talent is just substantially different. Um, than it was, 5 years ago, and substantially different than it was 10 years ago. So
Mhm. Probably a lot different too because of the access that coaches have now, right? Like it used to be a big deal when guys would go Division 1, but now it's almost become kind of an expectation that a lot of these guys are going to go to whether it be a Div 1 or a Div 2 or at least a JUCO to start, right? Like there's a lot of kids coming from this area now that might not have been on the radar 10, 15, 20 years ago.
right, for sure. Yep. And I think better coaches with more resources. I think in Alberta and now in Saskatchewan with like the academy setting to where you get to train with the best players in the area consistently is a really big deal. I think coaches are appreciating a whole lot more that there's good baseball in Canada, and it's something we need to follow and look into. So yeah, absolutely, it's become commonplace for kids from the prairies to play college baseball, which is a pretty cool thing.
Couple more for you, a couple standard ones we have here across the board. For those young athletes here in Alberta or here in Saskatchewan who want to get to the next level, want to be in your school one day, or want to follow the same kind of path that you took to get to where you're at now, what are your go-to words of advice? So those words of wisdom that you like to impart upon them to maybe inspire them to get to that next level.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the one like universal skill, right? No matter what you're doing is you've probably got to be the hardest working guy in the room, right? And the better the room gets, like the higher that standard becomes. But probably the one thing that nobody can ever take away from you is if you're consistently the hardest working person in the room. And then my thing would be like the second part, getting around the best coaches you can be around. I think like having honest and objective measurement is a really, really important thing. And it becomes harder and harder as there's more and more money in youth baseball and travel baseball and so on and so forth. So typically when you get around the best coaches you get a little bit of that financial element taken away, and you can get a little bit more objective and honest feedback as to what you need to do to get better. So that those would kind of be my two. And then the third maybe being that it's definitely substantially closer than most people probably think it is, right? We're so technological now. Like for us, we're able to see Canadians, which is a really big deal, but most people aren't, right? So it's one email away from finding a junior college, or one email away from finding a school that maybe doesn't spend as much time in Canada. So it's substantially closer than you think.
For sure. Final question for you. What's game baseball mean to you?
Yeah, I mean everything. It definitely is a change, right? When you're a player to when you coach, and now it goes from it's a really fun thing it's still a really fun thing, but it's like we talked about, having a family on the front end, and it's how I put food on the table now, right? Which is a little bit different change, but to be able to use this vehicle, Joe, from a coaching standpoint, to we graduate really, really, really exceptional young men, and we get to use a pretty cool vehicle to do that, and impart what it means to be a man, and all the fun things, to where it means everything, and I get to do it for a living, right? Which is a pretty cool. I get to be fired up every day to go to work, so means everything, man.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to share your story in the game and be able to share some insights from a coaching perspective here. Tanner, really appreciate the time. Congrats on all the success of your baseball past, continued success at UMary this season and beyond. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
I appreciate the time, Joe.
Thanks again to Kingston Besuijen, Tanner Morrow, and Tanner Spencer for joining us this week, and thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. After a busy week with 2 shows, we'll get back to our regular Thursday rotation next week, which will feature Austin Collins of Dogs Academy, Willis Samare from Going Yard Academy, and one other guest, so make sure you subscribe or like the show wherever you listen. A tip of the cap, as always, to our Platinum supporters, the Okotoks Dogs, Under the Lights Sports and Entertainment, and the Western Canadian Baseball League for all they do for us and for the game in our province. For more on our sponsors and what you can do to get involved, head to albertadugoutstories.com/supporters. Until next time, thank you for all of your support online, on social, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories.